The rules are a little bit different. It's not like always that objectively the strongest player will win. If you not win your group, you're out. I believe actually that probably I got stronger by teaching others. Walking through all these books with my pupil also improved my chess.
Hello and welcome to Berlin. Here we are at FIDE Grand Prix 2022. I am Women Grandmaster Dina Belenkaya, and today I am joined by the strongest German female chess player of the history, International Master Elisabeth Paehtz. Elisabeth, it's my privilege to have you here.
Thanks.
Elisabeth, my first question to you is going to be about the FIDE Grand Prix series. Did you have a favorite here?
I didn't have a favorite from the chess point of view, but I was rooting very much for Richard. I wanted him to win. Yesterday this dream unfortunately faded away, but if I would have supported a player here to win the tournament, then actually my fingers were crossed for Richard.
Here at Grand Prix he has been describing, like, in general, the life of a chess player, and he didn't seem very optimistic about it. What do you think his, I don't know, strength and his weaknesses, and maybe the reason why it didn't work for him, if you have one?
Well, I don't think that actually you need a special reason why it didn't work, because the tournament is of course very tricky in terms of emotions, nerves. It's a KO system after all, so the rules are a little bit different. It's not like always that objectively the strongest player will win. It's more or less like that the strongest player in combination with mental strength may win this event. And of course, when I said that Richard is my favorite, I mean, I wanted to be also objective that, I mean, here in this tournament, probably only like 5 players were even able to win it. And among these 5 players, I considered Richard, of course, I considered Aronian and Nakamura. And maybe also, like, I was thinking that sometimes, like, kids, I would say he's still a kid, like Esipenko could do it, because these players have enough experience. As for our German prodigy, I mean, Winston is very young, so I believe that now to win such a tournament is super, super difficult, but this experience will of course give him a lot in future to actually fight for the win after all.
Do you think that Winston's experience here, even if it was a painful one, will still be a very good one for his future improvement?
No, of course it will be very important for him. I think also, like, it's the first time maybe he faced a sort of KO system, because I don't remember him playing in a World Cup yet, but I'm not sure because, okay, I'm not following things so closely. But such an experience, of course, is different if you compare this tournament even with the Grand Swiss in Riga or other events, because you know that if you not win your group, you're out.
Recently you have had some amazing results. Was there something that changed, or is it just as usually it goes for chess players, ups and downs? It's just a period of up. How do you see it all, let's say, your the latest 6 months of your career?
Yes, 2021 indeed was funny in a way that it went just like uphill without any interruption. But I believe actually that probably I got stronger by teaching others, which means in 2020 when Corona started, like, of course, most chess players were bored. Some of them went on Twitch and YouTube as you did. For me, it was not my cup of tea on the long run. So I decided to give lessons, and when I give lessons, like, I also had pupils who were like, well, like, let's say the strengths of 22, like 23 and 24, I had such players as well. So I started to work through all the kind of books you need to work through, like books of Yusupov, Toretsky, Ogard, I mean, like really good books. And this way, of course, when you teach someone, you also like see and learn about patterns, or you see some kind of things which may be useful for your games. And I guess that walking through all these books with my pupil also improved my chess.
You also have a very unique style of adapting towards your opponent. I've heard so many times out of your post-game interviews that you usually study your opponent carefully and choose to go either dynamics or positional or, I don't know, sharp, or really according to the opponent. So could you share some small secrets of how you approach games?
Well, the thing is, like, I was never a great learner of theory. I mean, probably like I'm just lazy, and I was never fond of like learning like 25 moves by heart as some of the top players obviously do. So what you can do is you either switch your opening all the time. That's what I'm doing. So I'm trying to surprise my opponent the best way I can. That's one thing, and of course also like when you play against certain kind of players, it's better to avoid a certain style. I mean, I can tell you that the majority of women players, when they play Gunina, they want to change the queens as quick as possible, and not only me has this approach, like a lot of female colleagues of mine would like to get rid of the queens, especially playing her as quick as possible. So this is not a kind of myth, this is actually like what you do when you have like really sharp players, for example, just like her.
In general, you have accomplished so many things. I started this conversation by calling you the strongest German chess player of all times. And we also had the conversation before we started recording this video. You mentioned that German female chess situation has improved a lot nowadays than it was before. Could you share with us your thoughts on how it is going on the women's chess?
Okay, I'm a national player since 1998, let's say. So from 1998 until like 2018, I've been playing all the events, and I have been like, of course, witnessing all the support and all the kind of privileges women could experience in this period. And I can tell, like, from my young age until I think 2019, 2020, you could feel that there is a difference in the approach of treating women and men in the German chess. So, for example, like, men had more training possibilities, they had higher budgets for tournaments, and they had, of course, also a better payment after all. But then actually, like in the past 3 years, I would say, or the past 4 years, things changed to a very like opposite direction. Now I would say that probably the women's support is even greater than the men's support in Germany, especially also because last year we created a new group concept called the Power Girls. It's sponsored by the Krulich AG. I don't know how you say it in English, but it's like a company by a certain person called Krulich. And this concept of this support is that among those 6 girls, I mean, they're between age 16 to 25, that we will create another player, of course, who will at some point establish between 2450 and 2500. That would be the goal.
And you also had a channel, right, when you were streaming in German among German female chess players, right, at some moment with you, maybe Josephine.
And Lara, yes, we still have the channel. Just, I mean, in the last 3 months, since I played so many tournaments, I was quite passive, but these girls, of course, still like, they stream on Monday and Tuesdays usually. It's called the Frauenschach-Experten, and basically it means that it's a woman professional experts or something like that. No, the woman chess experts in the female version, of course. So yes, we had this channel and we will still keep this channel, and I also promised I will return to this channel. But in general, like, the things in Germany now improved a lot, and now, of course, also the budgets between the different groups of men and women, they became equal. The training possibilities are actually the least equal, even maybe better in the German women section now. So, I mean, probably now everything what a woman player of Germany ever dreamed of actually came true in the last 3-4 years.
And what do you think was the driving force or some particular maybe events that influenced this change, this great change?
Well, the thing is, like, of course, also like our federation changed in a way that we got a new president, we got a new CEO. I mean, the people first of all changed in the federation, but apart from that, also like we had not only me but also another girl from the national team. We had been fighting a lot to make this change possible, and eventually with someone who is very open-minded and like has an ear for us. I mean, our president and CEO, things actually changed for the better.
I recall that time when we crossed our paths right before the European Championship 2019, and that story of yours really made a very strong impression on me. You were having some rough period with your relationships, in your relationship with Federation, and you jumped on the European Championship on the very last note, and you told me that you wanted to win this championship, to take the medal for any cause, because it was a question of principle between you and your federation. You came there and you just killed the whole event. You finished vice champion. How is it to put yourself the goal and to accomplish it just like that?
Actually, it was not quite this way, because I didn't even want to play the European Women's Championship. I decided it like 2 days before the event, because I bought tickets to the Iceland Open, and like 1 week before the Iceland Open was going to be held, my flights were cancelled. Which means like the air company, I think it was WOW Air, got bankrupt. And I checked new tickets, and the new tickets were about 1,000 euros. So I did some kind of mathematical calculations, and I thought like, okay, if I have to spend like another 1,000 euros next to the 400 I already spent for the flight tickets, I can also play the European Women's Championship. It's the same amount I would spend. And I also believed this could be a sign that I shouldn't go to Iceland, but I should go to the European Championship. Since in this year I decided like to make a point, and I decided to step out of the national team. In 2019, of course, also I thought it's principle enough. If you don't want to play for the national team, you should also not take any support from the federation, which you usually have per year. So that means that I decided to play in the last moment, and of course I had to pay everything myself. I mean, I paid the hotel, I paid the flight, I also paid my coach Yannick, and basically I went in this tournament with 2,500 euros minus, but I was very much determined that the least I should do is to make a prize among this kind of budget I spent, not to be like upset with myself. Eventually I managed to be shared first. I mean, by tiebreaks I was third at the end, and everything went well in my case. I'm not sure this was because of my kind of absolutely will to perform. It was probably more because I believe in science, and the sign was for me that WOW Air got bankrupt, my flight was cancelled, and it meant that I should play the European Championship, and eventually the sign given by the Icelandic air company went to be true eventually.
How do you see this whole women chess situation nowadays, also with FIDE announcing this year being a year of women chess? Is there some positive dynamics from your perspective?
Well, I truly believe that everything for women will even get better, and it improved a lot in the past 10 years, not only like in my country, but also like in FIDE, because I mean, now we have like a candidate tournament, we have the same system like the men do have with the World Cup, the candidates, and then challenging the world champion. I mean, like some years before, the World Championship was a KO system, and it was not like that you can challenge the world champion. You would lose the title automatically once someone wins the KO system. So everything already changed for the better, and now I also read that FIDE declared this year to be the year of the woman. So I'm looking forward what that would particularly mean in the next few months. I will just see what's going to happen. But yes, I mean, everything points to the direction that things will still even more improve.
you are a very unique personality, not like other chess players. You sing, you play the guitar, you speak 4 languages, is that correct? You lived in different countries, you went to army, you have so many talents, and you're an extrovert.
True.
You're a pretty expressive person with a lot of emotions, how I see you. But yet, on the chessboard, you're extremely calm and controlling the situation. Like, there are so many examples of other chess players who clearly have way more emotions on the board and seem to be extremely calm. So my question to you was, I don't know if I put this the right way, you will tell me, but how do you manage to be so different, your way of controlling the situation on the chessboard, and your results still are pretty stable compared, once again, to other players, at least to me, but yet so rocking and rolling in life. This is the way.
So basically, you say my character doesn't fit to my playing style, more or less.
I say it's completely opposite, and it's very impressive.
I mean, like, first of all, probably like this means that since you think this way, that I must have an extremely good poker face, because actually I'm quite emotional and nervous during the games, but maybe I'm very good in hiding it. That's true. Despite that in the past, when I was much younger, I was actually quite nervous, and I was failing a lot of times, especially in the last round. This changed rather to the opposite now that, for example, in the Grand Swiss, in the last round, I was pretty calm in a way. Or let's say I was not playing in a way that it went up and down. Let's put it this way. I had a kind of clean win eventually. But in general, yes, I am someone who's probably emotional. In German, I think we call it like polarization. Like, I'm a character where people either love or hate me, but probably nothing like in between, and I'm pretty much aware of that, and I don't mind to be this way, because at least that is more funny or even like interesting for some people. But in general, like in chess, of course, like, yes, you're right, I'm not like having these big ups and downs anymore. But I think this is just the reason because I started to care less about my results, or I didn't take so much emotions and pain into the results when they don't turn out the way I want them to turn out. And I know that some of my colleagues from the top women's players, that takes much more like emotional effect to them when things don't go the way they expect them to go or they want them to go. So I believe it's a mix of age which makes me in this regard calmer, but apart from the calmness, let's say, during the chess game, I'm still the extroverted person. I'm still someone who probably like people love or hate, but hardly something in between.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. You speak 4 languages or more?
Well, I'm not sure, like I would even say that I speak 4 languages. Let's put it this way. I speak English, German, and decent Russian. I understand Italian quite well. I wouldn't say that I speak fluently Italian, but let's say if I listen to conversations, I get 70% of what's going on, unless it's something very specific. And of course, I also know some Turkish, as I have been living in Ankara for 8 months, but I wouldn't say that I speak Turkish, yet I can order food in the restaurant, if that counts. And I also was a foreign language correspondent based on French economy and translation, which means I can write in French, I can read texts in French, and I would understand what it is about. But I'm a terrible speaker, and probably I don't understand well when people speak to me.
So now I don't know where to jump in because there are so many exciting topics. How many countries did you live in? I mean, several months is enough to say that you lived.
Germany, Turkey, and Italy.
Russia?
I never really lived in Russia. There were times when I went to Russia, like probably like 6-7 times a year, I mean, I had a boyfriend like many, many years ago in Russia, so I was quite often there, but I wouldn't say that I lived there.
But still, your Russian is way better than your Turkish or your Italian or your French.
This is true, but this is just because, first of all, I consider Russian to be the capital language in the chess world, because majority of chess players are all from the former Soviet Union states, so of course they all speak Russian. And I guess because of that, plus the experience I had in the Russian leagues in Dagumis many, many years ago. I mean, I was playing for a Russian team. The only language there was Russian. So eventually, like, I had so many Russian experience by listening and speaking that probably because of that, my spoken Russian is a way better than my spoken French or Italian.
Is there a language that you would still love to learn?
Actually, probably I'm not like much curious to learn a new language. I would prefer to improve my Russian and to improve my Italian. This would be a goal which I still kind of have in my mind for the next coming years.
And you are also singing and playing the guitar, right?
Well, I mean, people who have experience playing the guitar, they wouldn't consider me playing the guitar, but yes, I can put like some kind of melodies on the guitar and this would help me with singing, but I don't consider myself to be a guitar player at all. But yes, I do sing, and I also used to take lessons in this regard. But lately, actually, I haven't been quite active, let's put it this way.
Was there a moment in your life that you wanted to develop this singing, I won't say career, but direction, path?
Well, at some point, actually, I wanted to have a professional education, but it was in the very early stage of my youth. I think I was like 16, 17 when I had this in mind. But back this time I was already quite successful in chess, and my parents told me like it's very hard to combine, plus it's not clear that I even like managed to get the permission to go to a music school, because the exam you have to take at the beginning is quite hard. So I mean, a lot of talented youth singers, let's say, would need to pass this exam, and for this reason I never tried and I never went in this way. But if I could, let's say, go back to childhood again, probably then I would prefer to become a singer over opera singer, to be precise, over a chess player, yes.
Is there any song that is stuck in your head at the moment?
No, at the moment, actually, like I'm not even like listening to much music, to be honest, but I can tell you the whole thing with singing stuff actually happened in Russia when I got acquainted to Russian folklore music like Ochichornaya and no, this was not in Katyusha, and some other kind of songs from the Russian folklore background. So it was actually the Russian language and the Russian culture which opened my mind for opera music.
And do you sometimes sing in your head when you calculate the lines on the chessboard?
I'm happy that I'm spared from these kind of thoughts.
Elisabeth, you had so many outstanding experiences in your life that are so unlike other chess players, professional chess players. You also went to the army. Could you share with us how did it go?
Back, I think like something like 10 to 15 years, we had a very great program. It was a kind of supportive program which was sponsored or supported by the German army. And that meant that German non-Olympic and German Olympic sportsmen, the best of their age, could join the army for a special program, which means you had to do the military camp like every soldier. And after that, you would have been supported playing chess or doing your sports with the help and the financial support of the army. So in 2005, I did my A-levels, and back this time, I think I was even the only girl or the only youth player who did the A-levels in this year. So they offered me the federation to join the army, and the deal was like 2 months of military training, which is the basic education you do as a soldier, and then 2 years of like doing your sports, getting financial monthly support, and you had to pop up once a month in the army to say or to show like your training plan and stuff like that. So for me, this was a great offer, and I was always curious to get the basic education as a soldier, because I'm also like someone who likes the idea of shooting and to actually like get the experience of using the weapon or the pistol, as I think this is also a great sport. So I went there and I did the military education, and people actually, I spoke to some of my friends who did the same education some way before me, and they told me like it's a quite easy thing. You enter the army, you give your brain at the entrance, and once you enter, you don't have to think anymore. And actually this is quite true, because once you're in the army, all the higher ranked soldiers will tell you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. And the only trick you need to know by this is like that you shouldn't get things close to you emotionally, because usually higher ranked soldiers are rough. They might shout at you and stuff like this. But the trick is basically you only have to know that in normal life you would be superior over these persons, because likely people who go to the army mainly go there because in real life they might not be in the position of being powerful, but in the army they know the higher ranked you are, the more you can boss around the others.
Do you think it made you emotionally stronger and more resistant in general, and also regarding your chess career?
Actually, I don't think so, because okay, the good part of the army education was I learned pretty much about my physical limits, because okay, it was also like that you needed to march, you needed to jump, you needed to run with like a 30 kilo of like rucksack on your back. So of course you learn where your physical limits are. Psychologically, actually for me it was an easy run, because if you want to hit a person, I believe you hit the person more if you use a clever way of insults. But the more primitive the insults are, and the more people like shout at you in a kind of silly way, so less actually it affects me emotionally, because yeah, I mean, intelligent ways of insults are much more painful in my opinion, because they hit you psychologically stronger than if someone is using primitive language.
On one of the most privileged chess tournaments for women, Cairns Cup in US, which was held, I believe, right before the lockdown, there was such a particular experience called the confession booth or something. There you had this private room during the game with the camera where you could go and you would say what you were thinking or feeling during the game, then it would be shown up on the commentary. How did you enjoy this experience, and do you think it is something that should be integrated in the future chess tournaments to, you know, let's say, make the chess game more entertaining to public?
Well, honestly, I think this is a quite American thing, because like American culture was always like ready for extraordinary ideas, and I really love the country for this kind of creativity. I believe that this confessional booth cannot be successful in Europe or as a part of a chess tournament, because most players will probably not be happy to distract themselves confessing something. Back in the Cairns Cup, I mean, I decided, and probably most of the players went there once or something, so I decided I go there once and I would tell something, but I believe that telling something about my games is actually boring plus too private, because I mean, I remember I went into the confessional booth during my game, probably with Bella Kutanashvili, and I was already not having a good position. So I decided like, okay, if you go there, you should do something funny at least, because I mean, what is the point to speak about your game and your thoughts about the game? I mean, commentators already know how your position is. So I came up with the idea of using some different kind of languages and express my gratitude towards the tournament. And apparently this turned out to be quite funny. But in general, like, I always liked the idea to do something different from the others.
We already discussed the different countries where you live, different languages that languages that you would like to study more, are there some countries where you would still like to live?
I mean, if you skip politics, I would say that I could imagine myself to go back to Italy because I really liked my time in Italy when I used to live in Rome. And it's a nice country. It has wonderful, nice, friendly people. The weather is great. The landscape is amazing. The food is very nice. But nowadays, probably I would prefer to go to a country where all these kind of cuts of freedom rights would be not existing anymore, because during the pandemics, like, we had discovered a lot of cuts in our personal rights, and the longer it lasts, and in my country we still have a lot of restrictions actually, the more I believe that persons or people get tired. So I can imagine to finally find a country where all these restrictions will not be valid. And yes, so I would nowadays choose my country according to the level of restrictions. Let's put it this way.
What is the next big goal for you, or let's say the next step, of course, if you're comfortable sharing it, anything that's your agenda that you would like to accomplish?
Well, maybe I still have a last chess goal in my life, which would be to qualify for the candidates once in my life. I mean, I was very close in Grand Swiss, just unfortunately in the women's section they had only one place, in the men's section they had 2 places, but okay. That was clear before we entered the tournament. So if I would still have a goal, then probably just to one time qualify for the candidates. But apart from that goal, actually, I believe at the age of 37, I reached a moment in life where I should slowly consider or regard to become not professional, or not to become not professional, but to slowly leave the professional base of a player and actually stick more to family issues.
Elisabeth, you're such a talented person, direct and extrovert with a lot of charisma. What would be your advice to give me as a junior reporter to become better?
Well, I wouldn't give you any advice to become better, because I'm not an expert in media things, and probably being very direct doesn't make me very diplomatic in this regard. But my advice to you is always to stand for your own ideas, opinions, and to do what you think is right and not to do what other people want you to do.
It has been a big honor for me to have you here, the strongest German female chess player of all times, and an extremely accomplished professional chess player. Thank you so much for having taken time to be here.
You're welcome, thanks.